So we'll go through all the buttons and switches inside of the cab. I do have an operator's manual cabled into the machine just in case you're out in the field and you don't want to pull up the video or lost the video. There is an operator's manual cabled up above the steering wheel that'll say attached to the machine. But let's go through some of the buttons and switches together while I have the machine. So on your left hand side of the console, you'll have your power shift transmission. 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll have 4 forward gears and 3 reverse. Behind the steering wheel, you'll have a 2-stage rocker switch. So when it's pressed all the way down, you don't have any of your front work lights. Middle position, you'll have your outer 2 work lights, and then all the way up will be all 4 of your front work lights. Moving over is going to be the the 4-way flashers. This is one of the 2 buttons in the cab that are not working. That is going to be how it is sold, but don't have 4 ways at this point. Moving over, you will have your front windshield wiper. This again will be a 2-stage switch. So middle position will be your slower settings. Top position will be a faster position. And then this is going to be a detent switch. It's going to be for your wiper fluids, which do work. Turn that bad boy off, and it'll default over to your left-hand side. All right, moving over to your joystick. So obviously bucket controls. Push it back, you'll lift the bucket up. Press it forward, you'll move your bucket down. But your important button on this joystick will be your clutch disconnect, to be controlled by your thumb. When you are, and turn the park brake off. When you are rolling forward and you press on that switch, it's going to disengage your transmission. But what it'll allow you to do is either keep engine RPMs up if you're going into a pile, so you'll have a greater breakout force. Moving over, you'll have your 4-wheel drive switch. So when this is in the up position, your 4-wheel drive will be on. When you're going down the road, your you'll have that down. It'll be your 4-wheel drive off. Of course, your parking brake on position, off position. When it's in the on position, you go try to put it in gear, you'll have an alarm going off at you. So it won't let you go into gear with the parking brake on. This is going to be for your ride control. So when you're going into your pile, I would not have your ride control on. Your ride control is going to be primarily for if you're going down the road, or if you're boogieing across the field, or anywhere where you're in a travel position more than, call it 3 or 4 miles an hour. But when you're going into a pile, or you want to fine grade something or back grade something, I would leave that off. So when we'll move the bucket up, I'm going to hit on that toggle switch. That bucket will actually relax. So see if I can catch this on video. So if you have any type of material or weight in the bucket, what that's going to do is going to counter react the machine going down the road. So see how that goes to a slow stop? It's going to counter react the weight in the bucket so it doesn't feel so rough inside of the cab and clank you around. You turn that off and you drop. You see how that directly affects the feeling inside the cab. I can't even hold the camera still there. So they'll just react to you going down the road. That bucket will actually float up and down, making for a much smoother ride inside the cab. I would always have that on when you're roading the machine or traveling, with the machine with any distance, with or without material in it. You'll just feel a lot more comfortable inside of the cab there. Beacon, that's for your top beacon up top. Your first button right of the key switch is going to be for your air ride seat. That works. So that's going to depress your seat. And this is going to put more air in the seat. And that'll adjust your ride height where you sit inside of the cab. Next button over is going to be for your rear windshield wiper, which does work. So your next auxiliary toggle switch. This is the toggle switch that you more than likely won't use, but it is here. It'd be for if you're connected to like a hammer or a hoe pack or something that will require a one-way auxiliary circuit. So remember, this machine does have a thumb, so you already have your two-way auxiliary circuit being used for your hydraulic thumb. This is going to be for your one-way. If you do ever run into occasion where you're going to run a hammer or a hoe pack or, you know, one of those attachments that you're going to run, you know, one-way or single-way auxiliary hydraulics, you'll turn that on, and when you swing your seat around, you'll have a switch. We usually keep them hidden right behind there. You'll have a switch that's essentially just an on-off switch, and that will power your one-way aux. So again, I don't think that's anything that you'll ever use, but it is important to know what it is and why it's there. Tuck that back away. All right, so we're sitting in the rear position now. Probably another thing to good note is underneath of your seat on your left-hand side, you're gonna lift up on your left-hand lever, and that's gonna be your seat swing. To position your seat forward or backwards will be on your right-hand side, okay? So moving back, you're gonna have your heater / air conditioning controls. Down will be for air conditioning. Center position will be off. Top will be for heat. Yeah, right now it's like 85 degrees. AC's blowing pretty dang good. The second button inside this cab that I cannot make work is going to be your horn switch. I'm just calling that one out. Your horn does not work, and that is, you know, going to be the way that it is sold. Obviously, rheostat switch for your temperature controls. Fan motor, which works in all of its gears, or all of its settings. Moving up above the horn switch, you will have two different work light settings. So your lower work lights, you have 6 lights in the rear. Your bottom switch is going to be for your side lights, and your top switch is going to be for the 4 lights facing, you know, the hull of the machine, the rear of the machine. Moving over, so this is a pilot control machine. And what's kind of cool about this one is it actually has a pattern control valve built into it, working off in a solenoid that does work. So right now I have it set to backhoe controls, but you can change that to excavator controls depending on whatever way you feel most comfortable. I'll tell you that a lot of times it does help with the resale value of it, just because you don't know who you're going to be selling to. You know, some guys who sit in the seat of an excavator for 30 years, it's really hard to retrain your brain, you know, because they are opposite controls. Your boom and your stick will be opposite from excavator to backhoe controls. Not certain what you are used to, but I am assuming based on your JCB that you're running now, you're going to be running backhoe controls. So that's the way I'm going to send it down to you. When you get ready to run the backhoe portion of the machine, pull both joysticks down. You will have your, I had it in lock position, but this should stay when you're done with it. You put it back in your lock position. When you're done, or when you're ready to go, you'll switch it to your unlock position. Oops. That's because I didn't have that down all the way. But you'll change that to your lock position, or excuse me, your unlock position, and you'll be ready to operate the machine. Coming down to the floor. So when you are roading the machine or traveling with the machine, you'll actually put your boom down. This center joystick here is just a manual connection to your boom lock. So when I pull back on this lock, or pull back on the joysticks, these locks will come up. Let's see if I can do this on one. You'll bring your boom all the way back. You'll set that down. and those locks will actually lock into the boom, and that'll prevent boom drift. On your left-hand side, facing the rear, you'll have a, control valve that'll open and close your hydraulic thumb. On your right-hand side, will work your extend-a-hoe. Over to the left of your joysticks, this will be for your throttle. That's about 50 to 60% throttle down to an idle. And in both of these, we're going to work your stabilizers. So when you're done, make sure you put that back into a lock position. You'll hear the machine lock the hydraulic functions in the rear. And you'll push back up on your joysticks, get them out of your way. And then obviously move your seat back. If you, have your seat far back so you have lots of leg room when you're working the rear of the machine, you do have your steering wheel positioning switch. You'll pull that down, and that way you can adjust your steering wheel. You push that all the way up. Put it down the middle for when you travel. That's about all the buttons and switches inside this machine. Well, over on your right hand side, this is going to be how you're going to work your 4-in-1 front bucket. So this could be for your front auxiliaries, whether down the road if you keep your 4-in-1 front bucket, or if you have something else, another attachment, that'll require 2-way front auxiliary hydraulics. You do have that, and that's controlled by this lever here. Right next door to your loader bucket functions. All right, so getting out of the cab, I want to show you where to check all your fluid levels and where you put fluids in, I suppose. So safety first, right? You put your boom all the way up in the air. This will be a cylinder lock. When you're done with the machine, you'll pull this cotter pin. You pull all the way that out. This will stick into your boom of the machine. Your cotter pin will go back in, and it'll secure this right in place. So that'll ride there, 99% of the time. The only time you'd have it down is when you're, checking fluids and maintaining the machine or working on the machine. You put that down, just to make sure that, by golly, the boom doesn't come down on top of you. On the left-hand side, we had a used side panel that we put on. It turned out much better than the repair on this side. So I do just want to let you know that this one was not original to the machine. It is used, but it does look pretty sharp. This side turned out pretty well. This was the original to the machine, and that side section was fixed. But if you're sitting in the seat, right-hand side is going to be primarily where you're going to do all of your maintenance and your checks before you start the machine. And we did paint this here. I think that looks a heck of a lot better than what it did. It's like a rhino liner material. I cleaned it up pretty good. But right-hand side of your machine, you got your diesel fuel. Where to check your hydraulic oil will be just above your diesel fuel tank. You'll have a sight window there. Walking into the engine bay, if it ever does need more hydraulic fluid, it'll be up top right next to your air cleaner. Moving down, you actually have your engine air filter. It's never a bad idea to come down here and just kind of shake this out here. It's a dust collector, just to make sure you don't have any dust waiting to go into your engine air filter there. So you just, tap that around a couple times. You can get it all cleaned out. There's nothing in it now, obviously. We did go through and do a 2,000-hour service. So we went through and checked engine axle oils, planetaries, hydraulic fluid, coolant, engine oil, and all your filters. So that is done. If you ever run the machine out of fuel, I mean, try not to, right? But if you ever do, this toggle switch down here actually works for your, to pump fuel back into your system, into your ejectors. Just try to prime the system. Directly below that is going to be for your transmission. This is both going to work as your dipstick and your fill spot. Your engine oil dipstick will be down just below it. Again, fresh oil change, so you do have that. Does have a block heater. You know, these engines typically start pretty dang well during the winter, but if you do get cold, or, you know, if it's sitting outside, you know, it's never a bad idea, you know, just to plug that in. It makes for an easier start in the morning. Your engine oil fill. This here is for an ether start. That is a switch inside the cab that I think I forgot to mention. But it's essentially just an ether can flipped upside down that you press holy smokes if I can talk, a yellow switch, and it'll put a small sniff of ether to help you start during the cold days. I would, in my opinion, I would try to avoid using this the best that you can. You know, it's never a good idea. I will tell you, generally, these engines start on their own. Coolant. Obviously, your radiator fill's gonna be right on top, but you do have a dock bottle up top there as well. And that's going to cover your daily checks of what you, of fluids, I suppose. One last thing, so if you're getting in the machine on your left-hand side, just below your serial number tag, you do got a toolbox right next to your entry steps. Batteries underneath your toolbox, I don't know if you can see that there. But when it comes down to greasing, you know, some guys ask, okay, what's all your grease points? This does have a list of grease points, where they're located, and you know, they'll tell you 10 hours or so. I've always been told 8 hours. Not saying that you're gonna be running this machine 8 hours straight every single day like a contractor would, but it does give you your locations of the grease certs, just to make sure that you're not missing anything. And there we are.